Hi guys, so today we're going to be talking about the basics of flying RC quadcopters. So first off, I will talk about the gimbals, and then we will actually begin flying. So on the right side we have the throttle, that's up and down. The left side. We have turning, yaw. And then on the right side we have forward and backward, and drifting from right to left. So let's get flying. So I will be using the chase camera for this video because it'll make it a little easier to see what's going on. So we have throttle, obviously, that's up and down. We have yaw, both of those are on the left gimbal. We have pitch, that's forward and backwards. And we have drift, right and left. Also, I want to mention very quickly, the simulator that I'm using here is RC Plane 3 for the iPad. I recommend that if you're a beginner, you start with a free simulator like this. It'll get you used to maneuvering the gimbals before you actually go out and invest a lot of money in a quadcopter and then crash it. Because in the simulator, if you crash, you're a click away from a new quadcopter. So, when you're flying and you make a turn, always remember to move both gimbals, because that'll make your footage a lot clearer. And if you do it professionally, it'll make it look like you're not doing something jittery, as compared to a very sudden turn like that. It just doesn't have a good appearance in video footage. So also don't fly near vehicles unless you've been specifically asked to. It's just a matter of courtesy. People are strange. When you are flying a quadcopter, it makes them wary. They feel like you're watching them. So don't fly around people's houses and stuff and just hover and look around, because it'll make them feel uncomfortable, and it also gives a bad name to the hobby. So those are just some of the basics of flying a quadcopter. And in the next segment of this video, we'll be talking about how to fly an RC airplane. I have a very simple beginner type plane here. Nothing fancy. For beginners, I recommend something like this that has a high wing, a very simple design. So let's get flying. First off, the controls are a little bit different. On the left hand side we have the rudder and the throttle. Now the rudder is how you steer on the ground, and it's not overly functional in the air. You have your ailerons on your right hand side and your elevator. Now the thing with the elevator is down is up. So if you pull the elevator down, then your airplane goes up. So let's take off here and go over some of the basic controls. First off, as a beginner, don't fly low and don't fly slow. You want to make sure you have plenty of power, because if you stall and you're low, well, you know what happens. So, first off, we'll talk about the turning. That is when you move your ailerons to the side, and then you pull back on the elevator so that you actually rotate. Not that much. So you basically just initiate a small little turn like that and pull back. Next we'll talk about throttle. That's just speed, and when you're in the air you never want to punch the throttle like what I just did, because what will happen is you actually lose the ability to climb, and if you try to, what you stand a chance of doing is putting yourself into a spin. So you always want to keep that propeller turning just a little bit, just enough to keep you in the air. And lastly, we'll talk briefly about landing. There's no sense in flying a plane if you can't land the plane. So, as a beginner, always make sure you have plenty of space to land. In this case, I'm using actually a full-scale runway. And right before you land, chop your throttle, and then flare it so your back wheels touch first. Oops, I bounced a little bit. I'm not a pro RC plane pilot, but those are the basic functions. That gives you a general idea. Alright guys, well, until we fly next time, keep droning.